promised you a follow-up on the Koukl video for the context of the Jeremy Rifkin quote. My intent was to make a short, but unfortunately, the context is a bit complicated. First, my thanks to my patrons and channel members. Your financial support paid the fees for me to get the book so that I could check out this context. Here it is. The quote is near the end of the second to last chapter. The book is on bioengineering and makes an argument for ethics and restraint in this field. On page 243, the page before the Rifkin quote, it says, "Where Darwin introduced history into his cosmology, our generation is introducing psychology, and by so doing, it is changing the form and context of the deception." By deception, Rifkin is referring to past and present self-deception concerning our nature and place in the universe, which Rifkin discussed in the preceding paragraphs. That deception being that we can understand it, all of it, that if we study long enough, all the unknowns of the universe can be known. Further, the current generation, through bioengineering, can not only understand it, but also control nature and our future. Ensuing generations will be more willing to cast aside the idea of an independent historical reality existing outside themselves to which their behavior need conform. They will be convinced that the world exists inside themselves, that they conceptualize it with their minds, fashion it with their knowledge, and orchestrate it with their energy. Skipping down a few paragraphs for brevity, we come to the passage Koukl quoted. Humanity is abandoning the idea that the universe operates by ironclad truths because it no longer feels the need to be constrained by such fetters. We no longer feel ourselves to be guests in someone else's home, and therefore obliged to make our behavior conform with a set of pre-existing cosmic rules. It is our creation now. We make the rules. We establish the parameters of reality. We create the world, and because we do, we no longer feel beholden to outside forces. We no longer have to justify our behavior, for we now are the architects of the universe. We are responsible to nothing outside of ourselves, for we are the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Today, our biotechnical arts merely imitate nature. Tomorrow, they will subsume it. Our children will be convinced that their creations are of a far superior nature to those from which they were copied. They will be the Algemists. They will view all of nature as a computable domain. They will redefine living things as temporal programs that can be edited, revised, and reprogrammed into an infinite number of novel combinations. The Algemists will change the essence of living things. Thus, the context of the quote shows it to say the opposite of what Koukl claims. Rifkin isn't declaring humanity free of any moral restraint. On the contrary, he is lamenting the lack of ethical restraint shown by some in the field of bioengineering. Most likely, Koukl found the quote on the creation.com website, where there is offered no context for the quote or what it is about. Rifkin isn't talking about religion or morality. He isn't arguing for a world without moral restraint. Creation.com makes no claims about the quote. It just has it on a page all by itself. For what purpose, I'm really not sure. But Koukl taking and using the claim without checking what the author was talking about was irresponsible and lazy. If he did check the context of the quote, he is worse, but I sincerely doubt that he did, as the book is obscure. My local library pulled it from Faulkner University for me. I'm also baffled as to why Creation.com would want to take this quote out of context, as the book claims that Darwinian evolution is a theory supported by little more than guesswork, and that it is only a matter of time before a better theory more in line with science comes along. Rifkin cites the late Dr. Pierre Grass in support of most of his ideas on this subject. Grass was one of the last proponents of neo-Lamarckian evolution as opposed to Darwinian evolution. Ironically, many who hold to the Christian worldview would agree with the quote as Koukl presented it, and argue for a lack of human constraint in this context. After all, God made the world for humans and commanded humans to have dominion over it. This is why we see a number of Christian organizations opposed to taking responsibility for climate change. If God commanded humans to rule over the earth, then that gave us the right to use up all the resources on it. Other Christians would argue that God made man a steward of the earth, and that humans have a duty to protect it, not destroy it, as is Rifkin's position here. There is no consensus on the issue. I also found this source for the same quote when I was looking for any information on the religious beliefs of Jeremy Rifkin. This also could be Koukl's source, especially since this site declares Rifkin to be a celebrated atheist. The closest that I could come to finding what Rifkin's religious beliefs are was this book review that indicates that his mother was Jewish and he has strong leanings in support of Israel. So there you have it. Rifkin is definitely not known as an atheist. The quote Koukl used was saying that people should exercise moral restraint rather than declare themselves masters of the universe.
And the masters of the universe!
And the context was that a lack of ethical restraint in the area of bioengineering could lead to dire consequences. Live your life.